If I could have everybody's attention. This is one of the things that we like to do. We have our mayor, John Mitchell, who's here, who's going to bring a few greetings. But this is the time that the Homeless Service Providers Network gives out our annual Sister Rose Award. Sister Rose, a lot of us think that she was our living saint here in the city. Years ago when there was a need for shelter and a lot of the churches came together, Sister Rose was the one that stepped up through the Sisters of Mercy and started running the shelter for us. And then she got involved and we had government support and everything else. A lot of the work that gets done now is a combination of all of these different forces working together for the good of the community. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring up the mayor to bring greetings and say hi to everybody. We want to thank the mayor. This community is the only community in the South Coast, this city, through this mayor, is the only city that puts any money into inclement weather shelter. We end up helping with the rest, but through John's efforts, this city is the only one that does that, and we want to thank you.
Thanks, David. All right, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. You know, I speak out of a lot of events, and then sometimes there are events where people are talking and whatever, and I think, oh, can they just quiet down? This is an exception. They're working over there, and it's just as well. Keep at it, whatever you're doing, don't let us interrupt. But I want to, for those of you who are tuning in, I just have a couple of things I want to say. First of all, just a real big thank you to everybody who's here. So the Homeless Service Providers Network just works day in and day out to help those in the most extreme need in our city. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but what we have to do as a city is just continue at it. Work on this person by person, day by day, to get people back on track and to live fulfilling lives. That's what we're up to. And the small wins along the way are bigger wins than you know. If you're getting somebody plugged into services, whether it's substance abuse, job training, getting them to the RMV, or just getting a roof over their head for the night, you're making a huge difference in somebody's life. And I just want to let you know just how much I appreciate it. I appreciate the work that the city does through Jen Clark, John Lobo, our community services folks, community development, everybody the police department, everybody that plays a role, but most especially all the volunteers and all the service organizations. Dave, the work that you've done, your leadership has been enormous. It's been invaluable in every respect. The folks at Sister Rose House, huge work. I can't go down every organization. It's just too long. I would just say to you, take a look around the room and recognize the work that's being done here and the level of teamwork. This is how it gets done in New Bedford. We work together to make a difference in people's lives. I'm going to leave it to you to announce the honoree. All I can say is I know the work that him, her does, he, she does, and he or she gives back in a way that is in the best tradition of Sister Rose herself. And he or she makes a huge difference in this community, and I can't thank him, her enough, David. The suspense is killing everybody. So with all that, I'm going to turn it back to you for this great announcement. But thank you again for everything that we're doing here, person by person, day by day. Thank you.
You can hand it to them.
Okay.
All right, so the Sister Rose Award gets handed out every year. It's been going on for well over a dozen years, I believe. Every year we get nominations from the community, and I gotta say that this year was a unanimous choice. And the only people that vote once they come in is past award winners. And so this year, we want to bring up Ray Duarte,
I will say that for the most part, I'm not a nervous person, and if I knew I was going to get this, I would have prepared a speech. So I'm going to have to speak from the heart. I am a little nervous, so I'm going to start off with, I guess, a touch of humor that I told a lot of people, including our CEO, Souza, who's present here today. I know a lot of people do a lot of work in the neighborhood, so there's always a lot of people that could be in contention for this type of award. Success is never an individual effort. It's a community effort. I'm just one of God's workers that is getting acknowledged today, but I'm half the person I am without my support, such as Karen Flashman, my boss, who's also trained me and helped me to get to this point. The experiences that I've had firsthand with the homeless populations, my skill set has greatly improved over the 6 years that I've been with this agency, just because of what I go through. I merely came here in 2012. I was recommended by an old supervisor of Sister Rose that said, you know, Ray, I work at a barber shop also, King Cuts in New Bedford. I cut here for years. And this gentleman came and said, you have a good temperament, you have a good skill set, you should apply to work at Sister Rose. At that time, I had a long beard, I had barbershop clothes on. He said, go down to the shelter right now and just knock on the door and ask if there's a job. So when I go down and I knock on the office door at the old Sister Rose, at the time the program manager opened the door, and before I could say anything, she said, we have no beds, and closed the door. So I said, you know something, I think I'm in the right place. I think these are my people. You know, at first it was a job, now it's my life. You know, I do this every day. I got to sit with Sister Rose, God bless her soul, many times as she came to shelter, and even as she retired, we still had her office upstairs that was locked off, and all her belongings, her computer, everything was still there, just with dust everywhere. So one day she came and see me at 8th Street, and I said, Sister Rose, your office is still upstairs. She got right up and said, well, let's get to work. You know, over my time, I've been humbled. I've washed feet. I've helped people that had medical conditions that probably didn't have insurance at the time, with alternative information I've known. I worked in the community over the years. I worked for Youth Build as a supervisor. I was a mentor. I worked on farms in Dartmouth, which I'm fortunate to have 3 raised beds at Sister Rose. So we try to educate the populations that do come through with sustainability, importance of leaving less of a carbon footprint, taking advantage of the resources that's around us. You know, Sister Rose, we've evolved since I came here. We're a low barrier, low threshold shelter. We try to get people transitioned back to stability within 90 days. We're fortunate to have 1-800-HOMELESS that came on in late December 2015. We were supported by tons and tons of volunteers. Thank God for Mayor Mitchell, the city of New Bedford. Like Reverend Lima was saying, they give us funding every year so we can do an overflow shelter, and there's no other city that does that. You know, on any given day, the temperature's 28 degrees or deemed to be below, I have to make that call. On those most trying days, because even Ray don't always get it right, I tend to walk outside with no coat for 5 to 10 minutes. If I can't deal with it, then neither can the people that can sleep outside. You know, we do have a lot of challenges before us. You know, we've got pretty much the epidemic, substance abuse epidemic going on. I deal primarily with heavy substance abuse, heavy mental health. It's a very challenging job, you know, and so I get a lot of applause on a certain day, and some days some people probably ain't happy what I have to say, but I do love my job. I think we have a great city, we have a great community, we have one of the strongest HSPNs that was pretty much created by Sister Rose herself. I've been asked to step in her shoes and run her program that she started many, many years ago. I'll say that there's nobody that's ever going to take the place of Sister Rose, but through my time, many individuals have stopped me and told me that I have likenesses that resemble her. I'm thankful, I'm appreciative. Like I say, if I knew this, I would have prepared such a much longer speech, but I gracefully accept this award on behalf of the city and everybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you.